This is Lewis Hart for Boxing Social in association with Empire Fighter. It's always a pleasure to be joined with the WBC King, Kevin Lerena, over in Malta. Yeah, I'm sure it's very, very busy time. Very good weather, I'd imagine. But other than that, how's things, mate? How are you?
I'm going good. Obviously, the weather's beautiful here. We're really being treated well. Malta's a beautiful place, and obviously, Tyson Fury and Team Fury are really treating us well. So it's always good to get in camp with a big man.
Absolutely. I guess we'll just firstly touch on that. Obviously, back in camp with Tyson Fury. I know you was in camp with him for the portions of the first fight before it got postponed. Obviously, you was preparing for the Justice Hooney fight as well. Yeah, I guess it's good to be joined back. I know you saw him in London, and he said, I'll bring you back for the rematch. So it's nice that the word's been honoured.
Of course, and obviously we're looking to push Tyson to bring the best out of him and give him the best work, and he's looking great. So it's just great to be here. It's a good environment to be in, good training. All you can do pretty much is eat, sleep, train, and chill, and that's what it takes to be a champion and to stay a champion.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that being said, as you say, like that environment for yourself, like how much of a beneficial environment is that? As you say, like I'm sure you live a pretty, aside from your family and your friends, you live probably a bit of an isolated life anyway, where it's mostly sort of eat, sleep, train, and repeat. So nice to sort of have that mindset where you can be fully focused.
Oh, it's great. I mean, I love it. This is what I live for. So for me, going into camp and to assist another man, who's got the same ideas and the same goals and the same beliefs, it's great for me. So
Mhm.
it's something I truly believe in. So it's absolutely not a hard task. It's really
Yeah.
easy.
And I guess for yourself, like when you are in camp with guys like Tyson and that, aside from like the work that you're getting in the sparring, like how good of an experience is that? Like the aside from sort of the training, I'm sure it is serious, but I'm sure you make memories on the way, like lifetime memories that you'll never forget in your boxing career.
Of course, when it's all said and done and you look back, you say to yourself, I'm truly blessed to be here. You get to work with one of the best heavyweights in the world. So you leveling up, you upskilling yourself, you get treated like second to none. So when it's all said and done, I look back and I think to myself, I can tell my children one day, I say, I've done it. Come from a country like South Africa, had to really work hard to get onto the map and then work even harder to get onto the international circuit. And this is where it's led us,
Yeah.
which shows that we've done something right. So there's hope for everybody. And I'm proud of myself, but obviously I'm like a sponge, sucking it all in and taking it all in. I think that's why I said it's about leveling up. It's not just about the training with Tyson Fury. It's the other guys that are around me. You can learn something from everyone, and just absorbing, 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 and that will help me and benefit me to become a better fighter.
Definitely. And I have to ask you, obviously, being close to Tyson and being in the camp with him, what do you expect for the rematch? Obviously, a massive fight for Tyson in his career, and I'm sure, yeah, what do you expect?
I'm excited for him. I'm excited for Tyson. He's so hungry. He's so dedicated. He was for the first fight in any case too. But I think I see a different type of hunger and desire in him. And you know what? To be fair, Oleksandr Usyk's a great fighter, but so is Tyson Fury, and that's what makes the second fight even more tantalizing because the first fight was so close. That besides the ninth round, take the ninth round away, which could have been scored a 10-8 round, the Tyson Fury fight. So, or it's a draw, whatever it is. So the first fight was so close. It makes the second fight even more exciting. You got two greats of our era going up against each other. And Tyson's looking really good in training. He's truthfully looking good. And I'm just excited for him. But most importantly, I'm excited for the event. It's another
Yeah.
great event which puts boxing up there where it belongs. The
Mhm.
elites, the elite of the elite fighting the best of the best in the elitist sport in the world. And that's the bottom line.
Absolutely, for sure, and I definitely agree with you. I guess just shifting focus away from Tyson and more on yourself. Yeah, I guess before we do get into an obvious topic, but what is the latest for yourself? Like, I know obviously we done an interview a few weeks ago, talking about potential names and that, but ideally, what is next for yourself?
Oh, we're in a tough spot in a sense of with the Bridgerweight world title. We obviously we haven't been given a mandatory yet, but there's one or two guys who's the WBC silver champion who we're looking at fighting possibly early in the new year, maybe in South Africa, maybe in the UK. Then we got the option to get maybe some good UK heavyweight fighting. The landscape's always moving and forever changing. So Fabio Wardley had a good performance. I put my name forward for that. Um, there's so many things going on. I think the biggest key now is staying patient, staying ready. That's what I'm doing. I can't shoot that I want that one, because kind of it needs to make sense for everyone. But when the call comes, I'll be ready. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Hmm.
whether it means I have to defend against my mandatory in foreign territory, well, so be it. I'll go and defend wherever I have, smash a guy over and come back home and look at what's next. I've no issue going to foreign territory to fight. I think you know that. I'm
Yeah,
the
of
type of
course.
guy, and Tyson said yesterday, I get offered a fight, I'll take it. And that's what I stand for, and that's what I believe in. Sometimes not, maybe not the best thing for my career at the time, but I'm a fighting man, and that's what I do.
Mhm. For you saying it there, and as you say, you are staying ready on that because you never know. Is that difficult at the time? Because you do never know when. For someone like yourself, you're always going to be in a big fight because your career has proved that. As you say, like you'll always say yes, and you've earned the right to be in big fights. But is it sometimes difficult to kind of, I guess, stay ready because, as you say, like you never know when that call might come?
Physically, no, because I love training. I'm addicted to
Mhm.
training. I'm addicted to getting better. I'm addicted to improving, and I live the life. The life I portray and what you see on social media is the life I live. It becomes hard mentally, like
Yeah.
emotionally, not having the specific date to say, on this day, I'll be fighting this person.
Mhm.
Here's my goal. But having said that, that's a kind of an adversity on its own, but you learn to deal with it, and it makes you hungry. It makes you want to do more things. And obviously, I'm in it for the biggest fights, to be honest with you, champ. I'm in it for the biggest fights and the fights that make the most sense. And I think we've proved that we always are in an exciting fight. We had breakfast the other day, and Francis Warren even said, there hasn't been a fight I haven't been involved in against a
Mhm.
foreign opponent that hasn't been exciting.
Yeah. Hmm.
It's what I do. I come to fight, and sometimes it's going to swing in your favor and sometimes it's not. But when it does swing in my favor, I'm going to capitalize, and I'm deserving of that opportunity, and I'm just waiting for it, and I'm relishing it.
Absolutely, for sure. And I guess I did want to talk about a certain name with yourself. I looked on Instagram on Friday morning and saw you offering a shot to Jake Paul. Obviously, beat Mike Tyson on Friday night. Yeah, realistically, like, what was the plan like? Like, you think this is realistic? Like, what was the plan behind it?
You know what the plan was? Let me tell you. Jake Paul is a mega, mega man in sport at the moment, and no one can take that away from him. Look at how almost everyone's trying to jump onto the bandwagon. Realistically, though, realistically, I said if Jake Paul beats Mike Tyson, he should have a legitimate chance. Yes, Mike is older. Yes, Mike was a legend in his day, and he had a lot of health issues, which he declared. Jake did beat him, though, and I think it's not to say he beat a guy, Mike Tyson, in his prime. But what I tried to get to was the guy is a legitimate boxer. He's no longer a
Yeah.
YouTuber. You need to
Mhm.
take him out of that bracket, because I think a lot of people are still seeing him as the YouTuber. He's just what he's done in a short space of time. He's monetized himself in such a short space of time in the boxing world that no fighter has been able to do. So he's always going to be the money fight for everybody, whether it's for me, whether it's for Canelo, whether it's for Arthur Beterbiev, whether it's for Tony Bellew and whoever else has been calling him
Yeah.
out. I just bring something different to the table. I've had only 34 professional fights. I've had no amateur fights, so I'm learning on the job. I'm the WBC Bridgerweight World Champion, former Cruiserweight Champion. And yes, he's going to bring something to the table. Arguably, probably give me my biggest payday, without a doubt. But I'm bringing something to the table for him. I'm going to give him an opportunity to fight for the most prestigious green and gold belt.
Yeah.
So should I win, people will say, well, you beat a YouTuber. Okay, we move on. Should he win, you beat a legit boxer who's been in there with some of the best. Should he lose, well, you lost to a world champion. It's okay, Jake. It's a win-win for both sides. Truthfully, it's a win for me. From a monetary point of view, I would make the biggest payday, because any fighter who says they don't want to fight Jake Paul because it's a good payday is talking shit. They must not lie to you. You get nothing out of fighting Jake Paul other than the media coverage that comes with it, the fame, the money, and that's what we do the sport for, to be heard and to be heard. And especially a guy who's come from no amateur background, who's come from South Africa, who had to work hard to get onto the international circuit. These are the moments you live for. Plus, you'll get monetized for it in a way that a champion deserves. So it's a win-win for both guys. I think it is realistic in a sense of if I was Jake Paul, I'd go, well, I'm looking at this guy going, he's the WBC champion. He's giving me a world title shot. I want to test myself against the best. It's a win-win for him. Should he lose? Well, you lost to a legit fighter. Should he win? Well, you're a champion now, and pretty much fuck, you're legit.
Yeah.
If I win, it goes, well, you've made your biggest payday in your career. You know, if I lose, I go, fuck, you've got to say then Jake Paul's a legit fighter. So obviously I don't have I wouldn't say the social, the boxing world knows who I am, but I don't
Yeah.
have the YouTube following, or should I say the clout behind me.
Yeah.
But I do bring something unique to the table. And I was chatting to Tyson about it yesterday. He said if he was Jake Paul, it's a no-brainer. He would want the
Yeah.
opportunity because it's a win-win for him always. Whether he loses or wins, it's a win-win.
Yeah. Do you think there's part of you like Jake Paul? I know you've obviously spoke like positively there about him and sort of the social following that he brings, but do you think for yourself, if that fight was to happen, you would take pride because Jake Paul he's not the most liked person. So I think for someone like yourself who would you'd have a lot of people supporting you wanting to win that fight. Would you take pride in that?
Of course, I'd take pride in it. Listen, man, Jake, I think, plays the villain really well. From what I've heard about people who know his people, apparently he's a very good guy. But I think
Yeah.
in the industry, he plays the villain very, very well, and that's what sells. I'll always be the good guy, the gentleman who's coming to fight and give a good account of himself.
Mhm.
Would I prepare for it properly, wholeheartedly? You
Yeah.
know, wholeheartedly. I'll go in there to win. I'll go in there to smash him, to prove that there's levels to the sport. But having said that, he does the same. If you ask anybody who knows Jake Paul, who's trained with him, in fact, one of the guys that I know have trained with him, I said he works really hard, he trains hard, he takes the sport seriously, he's dedicated to the craft. So, which is nice to hear. He's not taking the piss out of the sport.
Yeah.
That's why give the guy a shot.
Yeah.
There's so many people forward on social media. That video did kind of go viral, especially in my
Yeah.
home country. And there's only a small few comments that say he doesn't deserve it. He's a YouTuber, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Everyone else is like, we want to see that fight. We want to
Yeah.
see it.
Yeah.
So what do
So
you
when you
think? What do you think?
you know what when you said to me like look the idea of like for me like the idea of you beating Jake Paul is definitely something I would definitely be advocate I'd be advocate for it but from what you were saying there like do you think when it comes to boxing when it comes to like the professional side do you think from the stuff that Jake Paul's done like everyone in the professional circuit whether it be boxers or so we can all learn something from him would you say?
Most definitely, you can most definitely learn something from him. Before I sent out that video, I was like, "Fuck, I don't think I should do this. It's not really like me to call people out to try get fights." But look how much legs it got. Look how far and wide it was spread, and that's something he's been doing from a very young age, and why he's so successful. So of course we can learn from him, making the sports exciting. His fight got what, if I'm not mistaken, 60 million,
Yeah.
was it 60 million live
60 million,
views?
yeah. Mm.
Bro, it's unheard of. Imagine that was a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So I'm just saying, like, we can all learn, like, we can all take a leaf out of someone's cap, or we can all learn a little something from someone. He might not be the most technically sound fighter or the most vicious, ferocious fighter, but he's done some stuff right that us fighters can all learn from. And I think you can learn from everybody. So it brings a different element and a different dimension to the sport.
Mhm. Yeah, and when you looked at the Mike Tyson fight and you looked at I guess his viewing figure behind it, I think people would be split in terms of arguments where they say, okay, 60 million viewers, but yeah, let's be honest, a fight between Jake Paul and Mike Tyson wasn't the most like and when you did see the fight play out, it wasn't like the most like the best advert for the sport in a way. Like, do you understand like how do you sort of look at it when everyone of okay, is that good for boxing or is it bad for boxing? Like, how would you sort of give your opinion when you see the amount of viewing figures and how the fight played out?
If you take the business element of it, look at the business element, the people in the hotel here, the hotel staff, the people who are cleaning, the waiters, they were talking about it the next morning. Did you watch the fight? Which means it had some sort of value to it. From a boxing's purest point of view, of course, it's not going to sit well with us because we saw an older, brittle man, once a legend in the ring. on wobbly legs because he's old against a guy in his prime. But I think the event is what stood out for me. And so it's kind of like I don't like to ever sit on the fence. I like
Yeah,
to shoot straight. But in this one, I'm kind of like sitting on the fence because I'm going, well, Mike tried. He came through a lot of adversity 6 months ago or whatever it is. He had a little bit of a medical scare. And Jake Paul, he did what he had to do to make the fight happen. People are going to give him shit for fighting a 58-year-old former legend or a legend of the sport, a former ferocious, vicious man. And people are going to say, well, good luck to him. They both kind of made their money and put on a great event that the whole world was talking about. So fuck what people think. It was
yeah,
sad to see Mark in there like that. I think what I took out of it was you had a 58-year-old man whose mind and his brain was telling him to do those ferocious pickaboo things, but he didn't have the engine or the body to fulfill what his mind wanted him to do. So
yeah,
yeah, I'm kind of sitting on the fence, but a great event. I got up to watch, so I was one of the 60 million who got up to watch. So
yeah.
they did something right, right?
Yeah, definitely. And a final one for myself, and on like final one on the Jake Paul fight, like you mentioned that there, like, do you guess understand like do you understand like a risk in this fight? Because when it comes to say you fighting Jake Paul, like whilst you would what you would get in like in terms of like sort of social following and money and stuff like that and whatever, like let's be real, it is like you could probably say it's a massive step down in competition from what you faced before. So do you not understand the risk in that fight? Because like I know you get the other way. But in terms of competition, like you've achieved far more in a boxing arena than what Jake Paul would have, like on just on paper.
It's a massive risk, but in order to, if you speak to anybody who's created generational wealth, they've
Yeah.
had to take the biggest risks.
Hmm.
So for me, yes, a fight like that may not create generational wealth, but in order to get great reward, you need to take great risks, and that is the greater risk.
Hmm.
In beating him is the great reward. It
Yeah.
doesn't do much for my record in terms of who's next because there are people who say, well, you beat Jake Paul, but there will be what comes with that is massive big fights
Hmm.
because of the stature and the profile you create. And then the same for him. Should he beat me, you know, which I don't think will ever happen.
Yeah.
But this is boxing, and I've seen some fucked up things in this sport, man.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
should he beat me? He beats a former cruiserweight world champion. He beats a guy who almost beat Daniel Dubois. He beats a WBC Bridgerweight champion. Is he then a serious contender and legit? You cannot deny the fact then. But yeah, I mean, we're playing devil's advocate, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the angle that I see a fight with us happening takes place, how it will play out. People will look at it from that point of view. People will see it as, oh, this guy's a real legitimate boxer. He just wants the payday. Fair
Mhm.
enough. But more than the payday comes with a lot of responsibility, a lot of risk, and a lot more. For Jake, well, he wants to be seen as a legitimate fighter. So he wants the belt. He wants to be recognized as a legitimate fighter. Comes with great risk for him too. But I don't think he's against taking risks because, I mean, he fought Tommy Fury, he lost to Tommy.
Yeah.
And obviously, you also got to remember, you can't knock the guy. Could take away the Mike Tyson fight, take away the 58-year-old. The MMA guys he fought initially, they weren't old men. Yes, they
Mhm.
weren't boxers, they weren't stand-up specialists, but they're not old men. They've come from combat sports. And he really bashed them out. He
Yeah.
really did. So I think, like any fighter, your first 10, 12 fights, you pick your fights, you try build your record, you get a bit of experience.
Mhm.
I think what he's done in those 10 fights in that short space of time has been pretty remarkable from a social media point of view, from an interest point of view. But obviously, there's going to come a time where you need to step it up. And I think that's what he wants to do. Well, that's what I'd do if I was him. But
Yeah.
I'm not him. Maybe he's got
Yeah.
other plans. I mean,
Yeah.
to be fair, it makes more sense if I was Jake Paul to fight a Kevin Lerena than to fight a Conor McGregor who weighs
Mhm.
170 pounds. Because then you're fighting a guy who's a lot smaller than you. Jake's a strong guy. He's 220 pounds. He's a big
Mhm.
guy. Then talking about fighting Gervonta Davis. Gervonta Davis, a machine, a pound for
Yeah.
pound great at 150 pounds.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Or whatever it is, that
Mhm.
type of weight.
Mhm.
He's a legend, one of my favorite
Mhm.
fighters. But he cannot fight a man who weighs 200 pounds, let alone
Yeah.
220. We've got to be realistic here.
Mhm.
So Me and Jake Paul makes the most sense for me. Maybe I'm biased. Tyson Fury agrees for what it's worth.
Yeah, well, that's no better people, no better persons to actually probably agree with you. But yeah, as always, Kevin, a pleasure to be speaking to you. Always massively appreciate taking time to speak to me. And yeah, enjoy the rest of the. I'm sure I might hopefully see you in Saudi in about a month's time. But yeah, I appreciate the time, man. As always, thank you.
Always a pleasure. Thank you. And
Cheers,
always a pleasure, my brother. Cheers.
top man. Thank you.